Welcome to Fear It Goes, the podcast all about taking your fears with you and doing it anyway. I'm your host, Brandy Taylor. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Fear It Goes. We are coming closer to the end of our health series. I'm probably going to do a couple more episodes, but today I really wanted to talk on more the mental health side of things. So we talked last week about caregivers and how crucial it is to give self-love and self-care. So today I really want to talk about forgiveness, because what we hold on to, Scott and I kind of talked about this a couple episodes ago when we were talking about energy, but what we hold on to, the emotional ties we still carry in our energy fields, in our bodies, can really be damaging for us to be able to move forward. And then we wonder why we get stuck and we get these blocks. The blocks are energies that are not moving. And what that means for you over long periods of time are anxiety, depression, these experiences that hold you and bog you down and affect your life. We're in a health series, and I'm talking about your health. Mental health is just as important. Actually, let me rephrase that. Mental health affects your physical health, period. There is no question ever as to how much your mental health affects your physical health. Never. Look over your life in times when you were feeling the most crappy for long periods of time. And if you haven't experienced for long periods of time, that's awesome. You're already using some good tools, intuitively or not. But look over your life. Look over the lives of those you know that have been miserable for long periods of time, experienced cancer afterwards, experienced big illnesses afterwards, or who have had deaths in the family that haven't been able to release it. And all of a sudden, it seems like, right? All of a sudden, I'm sick with something weird. Who knows what the hell caused this? How about autoimmunes? Those are fascinating to me. Autoimmunes just show up. They're not. The body is attacking itself. Why? The deeper meanings are why. Our thoughts are driving. And the most fascinating part, I'm going to give you a quick little lesson on emotions and how they drive through. So the emotion is a very quick chemical response in the body, right? Thought, a chemical response, emotion drives through the body. That's it, right? Quick. But the problem is our minds keep recreating with more thought, driving more chemical release, emotion drive through the body, chemical release through the body, chemical release through the body, chemical release through the body. And this is where we start to have real problems. We are talking about ways to release those blocks. So I want to talk about forgiveness today because it's so crucial for your ability to be able to move forward in this world. So often when we think about forgiveness, when I teach it, I come from a very different space of how to do forgiveness. I love doing it in meditations. It's the only guided one that I really truly believe is one that sometimes you need to be guided through. Over time, you will learn to do it on your own and you'll never need guiding again. I'm telling you, guided is great for certain things, but learning to do this on your own and allowing your intuitive nature to take over will always guide you in the best way for you and what's happening in your life at that time. But forgiveness is one of those things. A lot of people, when they do forgiveness, they say things like, I forgive you for making me mad, for hurting me, for doing these things to me. That's a start point, but it's not the real underlier of what's going on. And if we don't recognize what's going on, we're still sitting on the surface. We're never going to get to the goods of resolving. Never get to the goods of resolving. So the block stays there. Not what we want, right? That's right, my beautiful peeps. We're going to do this very differently. So when I teach forgiveness, it works like this. I'm going to forgive you for what you have done in those moments out of your own fears, out of your own protection, out of what was happening, and I'm going to give you what you needed. I know this sounds totally crazy, right? Because let me tell you, you guys know about some of my traumas from my childhood. We talked about that in the first episode. So there was a lot of forgiveness work around my father, right? Yeah. Great things to understand is that no matter what, when you're a child, you are placing meaning on absolutely everything that your world is. So as a child, we also don't have the cognitive awareness to be able to be logical and rational in a lot of situations. My parents are working all the time. Okay, you're a child. You're 6, you're 7, you're 8, you're 5. My parents work all the time. They're never here for me. This is what your child mind is thinking. Not, my parents are doing this because they love me and they want to make sure that I have everything I need, and that they're working all the time because they want to provide for me in the best way they can. That's a logical mind. And a child doesn't think like that. We're thinking from much more rudimentary positions. So what we're doing is very much thinking from spaces of, I'm not good enough, they don't love me, I'm not worthy of their time. We're thinking such simple rationalizations and meanings that we're placing in the moment. Now, as an adult, it completely makes sense as to what was happening in that moment, in that experience. But that's not what's happened with you. You now have the original meaning, which is, I'm not loved enough, they don't love me enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or I felt abandoned, or all the other plethora of simple, rudimentary emotions are now your base point. They're now your standard, and your subconscious leads the way. So even as an adult, we recognize, oh, my parents were doing all these great things for me. They love me. They did all these great things for me when I was growing up. Yeah, it wasn't the easiest, but, right? As a rational mind, as an adult, we have full cognitive awareness. We get this. That is not what's playing out, though. So a lot of times we go back to our original meaning. That's your subconscious. And it drives your actions. And it drives a lot of the way that we interact with others. So we talked a lot about one role really last week. We talked about the caregiver, and there's victim, there's a rebel, there's 10 of them. Learning roles is really important. I told you that last week. However, those roles are the underlying meanings. They're the original meanings. This is the mechanisms in place playing out. So you've done something that I don't like, right? So this is getting down to the forgiveness part. You've done something I don't like. But really what it's doing is it's surfacing my original meaning. I am now experiencing, I don't like that you said this to me. It hurt me. It offended me. Why is it offending me? Why is it hurting me? What is it that really is, what's the real deal? And when we get to the real deal is never the surface. Okay? So I'm mad at you because you said all these horrible things. You're playing out your fear. You're playing out your original meaning to whatever this is bumping up against for you. Now, that's also bumping up against my own original meanings, right? So I'm afraid that I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm questioning my own abilities and I'm doubting whatever is going on. You're butting up against it and you're pushing on it really hard. Now I'm offended, I'm hurt, I'm whatever. Okay? So forgiveness comes from the space of what's really going on. So when I do forgiveness, I do it through meditation. I learned originally to do Ho'oponopono, which was great. And the premise of that is that you close your eyes, you're going into meditation, you close your eyes, you envision a stage. And on that stage, you bring up the person that you want to forgive. And sometimes you're going to bring up that person many times. I did with my father, brought him up many times because things surface and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that needs to be forgiven too. Oh, I guess that needs to be forgiven too. Or sometimes people will pop up on there and you'll be like, whoa, I didn't know I needed to forgive you. I guess we're doing that today. But when you're doing forgiveness work, you're going to come from the space of what they need. Recognize what they're doing in that moment. I know this is crazy awareness, right? And I teach this. And when I talked about this with someone not that long ago, he said, you know what? I've had a lot of hard times with doing forgiveness work because it never feels like I'm really forgiving them. Or it doesn't feel like it's getting where it needs to go. He said, I've never really heard of people talk about forgiveness like this because it's getting to the crux of what's really going on. I really believe always, always, always get to the root. Never look at symptoms in anything you do in your life, whether it's a symptom physically, and we're in the health series, right? We're talking about physical ailments. Autoimmunes are physical symptoms of a deeper problem. Same thing when you experience cancer, it's a deeper problem. Our thoughts are driving so much through our body on a continuous basis. And I think I shared this with you, but totally off topic. I'm sorry, but I need to tell you this because it's fascinating. I wrote this in my newsletter. I was talking about hypnotherapy, and when I was first training, one of the most fascinating cases I've ever heard of was a woman who came in and said, I'd really like to have children, but I haven't had a cycle. I haven't had a period in 12 years. Okay, so anyone who's listening understands that that's pretty well impossible, right? Seems like an impossibility. Problem is, her mind had set things in place years ago and stopped her physically from having cycles. So it was just a matter of finding the root, discovering what the cause of not having any was, which was done, and then discovering once we had the root, then it was just a matter of going through correcting the mindset, correcting the mind, letting the mind know it's okay, we're all safe, everything's good, we can do this, this is what we really want. And the mind goes, oh, okay, you really want this, let's do this. But the original meaning for that person was that this was horrible and she didn't want them. So the original meaning took over the body. See, this is why I said it's so important to get to the original meanings for both you and for who you're forgiving. So back to forgiveness. When I do forgiveness, I look at the root. Okay, so this person has really upset me. They've said a whole bunch of horrible things. And we all have this in our lives. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how great your relationships are. There are going to be moments that people are going to say things that are going to butt up against your original meanings. And then you're going to be upset. This is a cue, baby. It's a cue. And it's not that you're just experiencing these emotions. The emotions are remnants of the past. So they are telling you things. Why are you angry? Why are you hurt by this? They've said some really shitty things, right? Why are they putting this out there? So I look at why it hurts me, why it bothers me, why it angers me or infuriates me or frustrates me. I also look at why they felt they had to put that out there. So for them, because this is their defense mechanism, this is their meaning, original meaning. What is it that prompted this? Look at the deeper stuff. And what's the rudimentary, right? Because again, when we're kids, it's pretty simple. We're not thinking in these really beautiful, logical states, these rational states. You're not. You just don't have the capability at that point. So I'm going to give an example. So I had this lovely argument with someone, and it's been brutal. It's been brutal. And it's butting up against a whole bunch of their fears. And it's butting up against mine too, right? But what's fear? Fear is just us thinking of the unknown and all the possibilities of the worst case scenarios, because fear is protection. Your primitive mind, your primary mind, your thoughts, these ones that are rolling around all the time, are there to protect you, but they're not really protecting you. More times than not, they're actually doing a lot of damage. But the mind thinks it's protecting you because it's going back to what your meanings are and what you want. So anyways, all this stuff comes up, lots of fear coming out. So through that fear, there is so much venom being spewed, just all they're scared, but pushed out onto the person. And this happens so often in relationships. I'm afraid, so therefore it's your fault, it's this, it's that, it's you, it's blah, all these horrible things are being said, right? Recognize what they're doing. Then forgive them for being in those moments of fear that they didn't feel supported enough. Give them the support that they need. Send them off with love. I know these things sound so weird, but they are one of the most beneficial experiences you will ever have. First of all, when you're sitting in these deeper, heavier emotional states, right? I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm scared, I'm feeling shameful or guilty, I'm resentful. All these lower grade emotions are heavy, 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 heavy. And when you're happy and you're feeling joyful and blissful and loving, you're really light. This is a great test in your body too. Recognize what's happening in your body, how you feel physically. Your body's a big tell. So in this, you're just going to sit with it for a moment and you're going to give them what they need. I forgive you for being so afraid because you didn't have that support. I forgive you for your anger in these moments because you don't recognize what's really happening. I forgive you. See, I am recognizing what's really going on. And that's what I'm forgiving. Because the other stuff is surface. It's the symptom. They're angry, they're spewing, they're super scared. So because they're scared, they're angry at you because you're the one pushing up, making them scared. But you're not making them scared. You're surfacing their original meaning, just like they are surfacing your original meaning. It's a beauty, actually, of encountering other people, other energies on this planet. We get to surface all our junk and clear it if we want, or perpetuate it and continue it if we choose. The more aware you are, the more able you are to recognize this and move forward and really clear those original meanings. Because, honestly, when we're little, no one had a perfect childhood. No one did. As much as our parents can be the most loving, amazing, beautiful people, or not, none of us had the perfect experience. It's just, we're humans. We have our own emotional ties. We have our own original meanings. And all of these play into how we experience the rest of the world for the rest of our lives until we clear them and recognize what we are, who we are underneath it all. Because that protective mind, that primitive mind, the ego, the conscious state, whatever you want to call it, it's constantly telling you bullshit. It's making stories. It's creating stories around whatever that experience is. Because if we're really, truly able to sit back and look at the situation through no lens, okay, no perspective at all, just see it for what it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not anything. It's there for us. It's just there for us to experience. That's it. But we don't see it that way. How could we? We're human, right? Recognizing you're human, recognizing how to let go of the moments when you're really being deep in your human and getting stuck in your emotions. Because these stuck create blocks, and the blocks in you create the resistance that you don't want because you can't get through them, or you're struggling to get through them to move forward in your life. There is a lot of excitement to be had and said about recognizing original meanings, being able to let go of things, being able to let go of all of the experiences you've had in your life that weren't so great, being able to let go of the judgments that you are placing on yourself and others. And actually, that's one of the hardest, but not. It's only hard in the beginning when you actually don't understand how to stop the judgment. There's a fantastic book, and I will say it was really funny when I read it. Gabby Bernstein wrote a book called Judgment Detox. It's fantastic. And I'd heard about the book, and I went, yeah, I don't need that book. I don't judge people. I'm not really like that. I tend to give people always a pretty open berth to being who they are, and recognizing that people are themselves and giving them the space to be themselves, right? So I was pretty good like that. I have always believed you don't know someone because you've never walked in their shoes. You don't know their past. You don't know what's created who they are today. So be open to that. The problem was, and as soon as I started reading the book, because it's funny, I don't even know how I ended up reading the book. I bought it and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll read this sometime. I read the first paragraph and I'm like, God damn, I need to read this book. Because my biggest judgment was on me. And still sometimes today, hello human, hello protective mind, no one is pervious of this. We all have moments when we fall into our protective mind and we allow it to run crazy. And being able to forgive others allows you to forgive yourself too. And when you send them off with love, you forgive them for what they're doing in that moment because they're scared, because they're stuck in their child, because they're feeling abandoned and this is their way of pushing it out, or they're feeling like they're not enough, or they're facing their biggest fears, whatever it is. Because really it all boils down to that, right? When you send them off with love and what they needed in the moment, I forgive you for this. I forgive you for that. I give you the strength. I give you the love. I give you what you need in that moment to be able to surface your original meaning and let it go. I give you what you needed in that moment. I heal you. You send them off like that, let me tell you, you go from that low-grade, angry, blah, blah, blah emotion that you're experiencing in your body, and you rise up. Your body feels lighter. You feel better. It is the craziest physical feeling, let alone mental, because you're releasing it. It's so like it feels like that. It feels like you can finally breathe, and that weight that's been sitting on your chest or that's been sitting in your body is now leaving. That's another really interesting thing too. When I think about like the weights in our body and recognizing where we're feeling things, the more we recognize what our body is telling us, the better off we're going to be to letting it go. This kind of goes back to some of the things that Scott and I were talking about, but I don't think we really got into depth with this. But this is releasing. And the more we release, the higher we get, the happier we are, the more blissful we are, the more full we are. And I talked about fullness last week. The more full we are, the more we can give. It's an automatic. It's who we are in our true, authentic nature. So being able to forgive is not fully about, like, a lot of people misunderstand that forgiveness means I'm letting you off the hook. You are, but you're letting them off the hook from a space that's healthy. So I'm going to go back to my father. There's things we haven't talked about on the podcast, but I talked about my father. It was kind of, it was quite abusive in my house when I was a kid. And understanding why he was so angry, why he did the things he did, was the first part of my journey in my teens. And it's progressed throughout my whole life. This is why I've been obsessed with understanding human nature and behavior, cognitive awareness, how to move through things, how to release traumas. This is why I've become quite an expert in my field, because I've been obsessed my whole life. Because sometimes you do become that due to the experience. So what a great gift he gave me. Sounds kind of funny, right? What a great gift he gave me in that experience. Did I recognize that up until, 5 years ago? Nope. Actually, probably even 3 years ago, would I have said that? No. What a gift he gave me. So lots of trauma in my childhood. Why did he do the things he did? Well, I look back at what his childhood was like because I asked. And his childhood was horrible. And of course, his original meanings were horrible. Not loved. You have to take power. So for him, it was about he had to take the power. He felt so afraid and so alone. That was the only way he felt okay. So I forgave him for that. I forgave him for his feeling that he had no other way to gain his self-power than through taking from others, than through terrorizing others and stealing it. That was his only way. It's the only way he could see. And isn't that sad? It's sad. So when you do forgiveness, okay, so I'm going to walk you through Ho'oponopono, sort of. If you do meditation, which we've talked about, and I'll probably talk about that the next podcast or within the next few podcasts, we'll talk about meditation a bit. But when you do meditation, go in, visualize a stage, bring up the person, and forgive them. Forgive them. You can be upset. You can be, but understand that's your original meaning it's butting up against, right? You can be upset. Dig deeper. I forgive you for the power you took because you felt powerless. I forgive you for the anger that you laid upon everybody because you were hurting so badly, because you felt so empty. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm recognizing what was really going on in the moments, because that's what we're doing. We're playing out our deepest hurts. And it's not the easiest thing to forgive sometimes, but I find it's much easier when you look at the real reasons. And then, trust me, you recognize your own and you're able to forgive yourself. And you also recognize that your actions, hello role work, I promise, come see me if you need some role work done, because this will enlighten you. Oh my God, this will enlighten you, and it will absolutely clear any misunderstandings about the judgment you have on yourself. It will change that and the judgments you have with others. Role work was massive for me for this reason. It was such an unlocking tool because I recognized very, very quickly how much of it I was controlling and how much of it I wasn't. Anyways, but when you recognize the roles they're in, when you recognize the roles you're in, you're able to release it. And the freeing experiences you have after that are blissful. Blissful. Do you know that state of bliss? It is so beautiful. It's such an incredible vibration. And yes, we're getting more and more into conversations sometimes about vibrations. But I want to share this with you just before we leave. I talk more about vibrations now because I look at energy, us as energy, right? We're just dense energy. That's what matter is. Just formed, dense energy. And energy has vibrational or frequency states. We've talked about frequencies and tuning the dial, right? If you're on this station, you're only getting these songs, these commercials, these experiences. If you tune the dial, you get different ones. That's frequency, but your vibrations are setting your frequency. And hello, thank you, Einstein, for enlightening us around energy, matter, frequencies, vibrations. Same thing with, I was going to say Thomas Edison, wrong person. Oh, Tesla wouldn't have liked that anyways. But those two did not like each other. Anyways, Tesla talked about this, and that's one of his greatest quotes. He said, if you want the keys to the universe, recognize and understand energy, frequency, vibration. That is us. So when we look at ourselves from a vibrational state, higher state emotions, love, bliss, joy, happiness, fun, creativity, all of these things bring us into a higher state. And in higher states, we are more and more and more open to the radio station we want to hear every freaking amazing song on, every awesome commercial that is there for us to give us everything we ever possibly dreamed of and more. That's where we're going. So, understanding that fear, protective mind, keeps you in your lower grades, keeps you in your lower vibrations, keeps you in your lower frequencies, right? I'm down here. How can life be like this? And I'm asking all the questions that keep me here. I'm asking all the questions that aren't raising me up and giving me what I need. Beautiful peeps, forgiveness is part of your key. Understanding roles will allow you to stop judging. And judgment is not a healthy thing. Recognize that. And there is a podcast episode somewhere back, I can't remember which one, on judgment. And I talk about the difference between judgment and assessment. Assessing a situation is clear just about facts. I'm assessing. I'm not judging, placing my opinions or my perception on a person or a thing. I'm just looking at what is. There's a huge difference between assessing and judging. Judgment is my perception, and now I'm rolling it in. Assessments allow us to be clear. Judgments muddle the water. Careful with your judgments. They tend to lead us down roads that are very destructive. So, forgiveness, vibrations, all of your states will change. When you move through forgiveness, release the blocks and carry on in a healthier way. So I hope you get lots from this one, and I mean it. If you have not done role work, if you don't know what roles are, and if this hasn't affected you on a level that I'm describing to you, then we need to talk. Because this is genuinely your opportunity to release judgments, to understand people on a deeper level, to be much more empathetic, to allow your intuition to come into play, and to really see your life soar. And I'm just talking about one tool. There's so many great tools out there. And there's so many great tools I teach. So, if you're not here yet, contact me. If you are here yet, send me some notes, actually. I really love hearing your comments. And if you guys love this podcast and want to hear great things, or you have some ideas for some episodes, please, by all means, send me a note. Shoot me a comment on fearitgoes.com on the podcast page. At the bottom, it says comments. Shoot me a comment. Say, I'd really like to hear you talk about this. Or I have a question around this. You know, I'm experiencing this in my life. I don't know how to get past it. Or whatever it is that you're thinking that you want to know more about, or that you're looking for some insight into. I'm here to mentor you. I'm here to guide you. And if you want one-on-one, or if you want some guidance on a deeper level, contact me on that. Until next week, my beautiful souls, think on forgiveness. Remember, put yourself in a beautiful little chair, put that person up on the stage, and forgive them and send them off with love. One of the pieces of Ho'oponopono that I did not include in this was the severing. And actually, it is a good tool. You can sever the tie, right? Sever the tie from that experience. I release you. Some people cut. I don't like that. I find that that's very abrupt in an energy field. So I like to dissolve it. I like to dissipate it. I like to release it like it's a balloon floating up into the air, and it's now done. It's gone. It's finished. It's had its time, and now it's done. Or it fades away. It's done. So you can choose how you want to sever. I don't like that word. Again, it's very aggressive in an energy space. Like it's a cutting off of, which we are cutting off, but we're releasing it more so than anything. There are some great YouTube videos on Ho'oponopono, and there's some words that they use. I don't find that those are necessary. I really prefer to really get to the root of what's going on, because it releases you too. So do what you want. There is some great Ho'oponopono on YouTube. It's got some nice music usually that goes along with it, and it's pretty quick. Typically, a forgiveness session will maybe be about 7 minutes long. 5, somewhere in there, 5 to 7 minutes. Okay? If you need more time, take it. Forgive those you need to. And if you feel that resentment and stuff coming back up, do it again, because there's something else there you haven't let go of yet. Or they've done something again that's butt up against something else in you. All right, beautiful souls. So much love to you. Cannot wait to see you on the next episode. If you guys are loving this podcast and you would like to support us, I'm putting this out there. I have set up a Patreon account, and I would love your support. It means everything to me to know that you want this podcast to continue, and that you're loving it, and that you're getting value from it. So we have a Patreon page under Fear It Goes, and we would love to have you as one of our patrons. Thank you so much for listening. Love us, subscribe to us, and sign up for our newsletter. And remember, no experience in your life has ever happened to you, it's happened for you, and you get this beautiful gift to draw from and do something with. Forgiveness is part of that. Because if you're holding it, you still haven't found the gift yet. Release it and find the gift, because it's beautiful and it's definitely going to benefit you. So, beautiful peeps, until next week, have an absolutely extraordinary week.